as young as they can. Like if you have a 2-year-old who's just toddling around, you know, you can get that 2-year-old to set the table. We used to have our kids do that. It's really funny to watch, because the table's like a foot and a half above their heads. You know?
Right.
So, you know, you give the 2-year-old a knife, not a sharp one, obviously.
That's a different psychological game. You can save that for next time, Peterson.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and you say, okay, go put this on the table. No, they can't exactly put it beside the plate because they can't see the damn plate.
Right.
But the kids are actually, if you're careful with them and you adjust your expectations to their level of developing expertise, that's called the zone of proximal development, by the way, they're more than happy to comply, because it helps them develop and move forward, and they have a really powerful instinct for that. You know, and with kids, it's also interesting, if you watch them very carefully, you can see when they're ready for the next task, you know. And then also the kids, you know, people talk a lot about self-esteem, which is it's very badly conceptualized self-esteem, because it's come to mean you should feel good about yourself, which I don't believe. I think you should feel good about who you could be if you got your act together. And you shouldn't be feeling so good about who you are now in your sorry state. It's like, what the hell, man? You're 17. Don't be feeling too good about yourself. Get your act together and see what you could be, and feel good about your trajectory.
Yeah.
That's way different, but also your competence. And so, like, even with little kids, is they know they're being taken care of. They have an existential debt to their parents. It's like if you allow them to be useful and encourage them to do things, then they get to pay off that existential debt. And then they can see that they're contributing members of even this small society. And it's no lie. It's like, hey, you know, when my son was born, my daughter was about a year and a half old. And you can get pretty intense sibling rivalry with kids aren't separated by 3 years. Doesn't mean you should separate them by 3 years, but because the older kid is still pretty dependent. So you got to watch that. So the first thing we did was we talked to her about the new baby that was coming, and we told her that was going to be her baby, you know, as well as our baby. That's your baby. And then we taught her to get a hug, and we had her act that out. It's like, okay, when the new baby comes, there's going to be times when your mom is preoccupied. You got to say it in a way a 3-year-old or 1.5-year-old, something like that, was 1.5, can understand, and that means acting it out and playing, right, like pretend play. But the message was, there'll be times when you're going to feel lonesome and you have to come and get a hug. Well, so then we'd have her practice. It's like, let's play a game. Pretend you're lonesome. It's like, okay. Now come and get a hug. It's like, okay, she'd get a hug.
This is better than the knife game, I think.
It's better, yeah. It's better than the knife game. Well, and so, okay, so fine. Then we had our son, and we helped Michaela, my daughter, figure out how to take care of him. And you know, a 1.5-year-old can actually take care of a baby. They can watch the baby, and if the baby cries, they can come and tug on you, you know, and say the baby needs, you know, whatever the baby needs. And so then, well, then the older child also gets a set of privileges because of that. It's like, well, you're older, you don't get to be an infant anymore. That kind of sucks because mom's with you all the time. It's like, what do you get in exchange? You get some more freedom, you get some more status. You get some more power. It's like, it's a good trade-off. That's why you want to grow. That's why you want to become an adult. You don't want to steal that from people. You steal that's the witch in Hansel and Gretel who fattens up the kids and eats them. It's like, come here to my lair, little one. You know, it's gingerbread and candy.
Yeah.
You won't have to do anything. I'll take care of you. It's like, yeah, run away from that person. I don't think it's the content of the electronics that's the problem. I think it's the fact of the electronics. And I think the danger to kids is they don't engage in pretend play, rough and tumble and pretend play. So even when I had kids, which is quite a while ago now, you know, the electronic media wasn't so, we didn't have cell phones. So, but I'd often take my kids to other couples who had kids, and they'd put all the kids in front of the TV and have them watch a movie. It's like, fair enough, it was a Disney movie, maybe it was a good movie. There's nothing wrong with the movie. But there is something wrong with the fact that the kids aren't wrestling, that they're not using their imagination to figure out how to turn some weird object into a doll or a fire truck, or making a blanket fort and playing out the roles of the family. Like, those things are crucially important. We know that. The rough and tumble element, which is one of the things that fathers do with their kids. Like, it's really useful to play physically with your kids because that's how they learn what doesn't hurt and what does hurt, you know, because I've played with little boys who haven't had a father, and they're often awkward in their play. They don't know how to react to me first, so they're intimidated. You know, like not a well socialized dog. My friend has these Ridgebacks, 2 of them, and they're really playful, and he wrestles with them all the time. And one of them came up to me today, and I whacked him on the side of the head, and in a playful way.
Yeah.
And immediately, with that hint, he went over and started like gnawing on his partner's head, and they had a big play bout. It just took that little hint, even for a dog, to get it. And so one of the things you do with a father is like you stretch your kid out, and you tap them and poke them so that they know what play is, and they know what hurts and what doesn't, and you let them hit and wrestle with you so they can figure out that they shouldn't put their thumb in your eye. And it's kind of how they learn to dance too, and to get coordinated. And so fathers really like to play with their children, and mothers are often somewhat apprehensive about that, because the guys generally will play rougher with the kids than the women will. That's a generalization for all of you who think I'm being sexist, but it's, the behavioral data is pretty clear. But it puts the kid in their body and gives them a kind of confidence. And then when they're out on the playground and they've got that play circuit already activated, a new kid will come up who's like that, and they can just make a gesture at each other and bang, they're off playing. But the kids who don't have that, it's like other kids will come up, make a play gesture too, nothing happens, they leave and go find a different kid. There's naive trust. That's the trust you have when you're naive, surprisingly, when you don't think that anyone is ever out to hurt you. And if you're naive and you get hurt, then you get traumatized in proportion to the hurt and the naivety. Not advisable. You don't raise your children to be naive. In Sleeping Beauty, in the Disney film, the king and queen, they're older, they've been trying to have a child, they finally have one, Aurora, like she's everything to them. They have a christening party for her. They don't invite the evil queen. And you think, well, of course they don't. Who invites the evil queen to the birthday party? It's like, you got to invite the evil queen to your kid's life, because otherwise they don't know that life is hard, and they don't know that they can prevail through that. And so what happens to Sleeping Beauty is the first time she's disappointed, as soon as she grows up, as soon as she hits 16, pricks her finger, a little bit of blood, she wants to be unconscious, because she can't tolerate it. She's been so protected, she can't tolerate life. It's like, so you want to make sure that your kids are exposed to experiences that push them and stretch them as much as you possibly can.
We will make America great again.